Good evening. I'm calling the regular meeting of the University Place City Council for Monday, August 3rd, 2020 to order. We are conducting our meeting remotely in compliance with the special Open Public Meetings Act rules issued by Governor Inslee's emergency order. City Clerk, will you please conduct the roll call?
Councilmember Figueroa.
Councilmember Figueroa, present.
Councilmember Keel.
Councilmember Keel, present.
Councilmember Pro Tem Lee.
Councilmember Pro Tem Lee, present.
Councilmember McCluskey. Councilmember Fleming.
Councilmember Fleming here.
Mayor Pro Tem Worthington.
Mayor Pro Tem Worthington, present.
Mayor Bellisi.
Mayor Bellisi, present.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. May I have a motion to excuse Councilmember McCluskey?
Yes, Mayor, I move to excuse Councilmember McCluskey from today's meeting.
I have a first. Do I have a second?
Councilmember Keel, I second.
I have a first and a second. Are there any objections to excusing Councilmember McCluskey this evening? Okay, seeing none, motion carries. Councilmember McCluskey is excused for this evening. Before we proceed with our Pledge of Allegiance, I will go through some basic information regarding our meeting. We have a few special rules I want to go over with everyone. First, in participation in public comments and public testimony and the public hearing will be accepted by the following methods. One, written comments testimony will continue to be accepted by email. Comments received before 5:30 deadline will be electronically reported to the City Council for their consideration. Two, subject to technological limitations, the Council will also accept telephonic comments or testimony by calling the number listed on the agenda, 1-509-342-7253, conference ID number 294-379-041#. For the members of the public who are calling in, please be advised we will take your call in the order received. To ensure order, your microphone will be muted until you have been recognized to speak. You will be recognized by the last four digits of your telephone number you are calling from. At that time, you will be asked to unmute your microphone by pressing *6. Secondly, for council members, as with our previous remote meetings, we will continue to use the round robin method in the sequence showing in the speaking and voting chart our city clerk has provided each of you to ensure order of our meeting and that everyone has a chance to speak. At this time, I would ask Councilmember Figueroa to conduct us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Figueroa. At this time, I would like a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Mayor Bellisi, Mayor Pro Tem Worthington moves to approve the agenda.
I have a first. Do I have a second?
Councilmember Keel, I second.
Are there any objections to approving the agenda as submitted this evening? Okay, seeing none, motion carries. The agenda has been approved. This evening, I am honored to do a presentation or a proclamation on behalf of our City Council, and it is as such. Whereas the end of the Civil War did not bring about an end to avert racism or systemic racism in the United States of America, and whereas despite significant progress in the last 50 years, the United States still suffers from racial division and racial inequality. And whereas ingrained in our country's history and culture are policies and practices that have created disparities between the races in wealth, housing, justice, healthcare, consumer credit, universal suffrage, education, and whereas the recent events, including the very raw visual videos of George Floyd's and Emmanuel Ellis's deaths, have awakened the nation as to significant issues of racial injustice in policing and the criminal justice system. And whereas the University Place supports the physical and mental well-being and health of all individuals is valued, violence is not tolerated. A cooperative community spirit and respect for each other, our commonalities and differences, foster a diverse cultural, spiritual, and ethnic life and prepare us for future challenges. This will include issues of social justice and equity. And whereas local government, being closest to the people and most accessible government, plays an important role in addressing these profound issues, and whereas the City of University Place will listen with an open mind to difficult discussions, hear the voice of its citizens, and embrace changes to ensure social justice for all, and that discrimination will not be tolerated in policies, actions by the city, and those entities whom they associate. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of University Place declares its intent to investigate, to change policies and procedures that have contributed to systemic racism within our local government based on outcomes of community conversations partnered with special matter experts, proclaimed by the City Council of the City of University Place, Washington on August 3rd, 2020. I want to thank my council members for our study of this last meeting and for your considered input. I realize that with proclamations in the past, it usually gets signed and it gets put away and no actions are taken. I'm hoping and I pray that our city council will use this as a stepping stone so as we move forward, and we'll consider these issues as we discuss in the future our goals and objectives for our community as well as our council. I know that this is a long process that we're going to be undertaking that will require us to partner with our local partners as well as our state and national partners to ensure that this time around we actually begin to make the necessary changes to ensure that all members of our community feel valued and appreciated and that they are all treated equally. So thank you again for your input and consideration on this. And I would like to thank Council Members McCluskey and Council Member Pro Tem Lee in working on developing the verbiage of this. So thank you very much. It is an important issue, and I look forward to the discussion as we move forward in the upcoming months and years as we pursue changes that are needed. At this time, the next item on our agenda is a public comment. As of 5:30 this evening, we did not receive any public comment, and there's no one on our call this evening from the public. So we will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted?
Mayor Belisi, Mayor Pro Tem Worthington moves the approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you. I have a first. Do I have a second?
Councilmember Keel, I second.
All right, I have a first and a second. Are there any concerns with the consent agenda as submitted? Okay, not seeing any, motion carries unanimously. The consent agenda is approved. Our next item on the agenda is our city manager and council comments section. Mr. Sugg, do you have a manager report at this time?
City Manager Steve Sugg. Yes, I do, Mayor. First, I wanted to report on the CARES Act funding, which the council back on July 6th officially accepted $992,700 from the state of Washington as part of the Federal CARES Act distribution to the City of University Place. As we described in previous meetings with the council, a process was set up for distributing grants to qualifying businesses through an online application process. Key stakeholders in the community helped set up the criteria and process for distributing those grants. Staff then sent out postcards to businesses. A total of 1,600 postcards were mailed, one to each licensed business in University Place, alerting them of this opportunity. A 2-week application period was established, which started on July 8th and was closed on July 22nd. A total of 66 businesses and 2 nonprofits qualified for grants. The total distribution of grants is in the amount of $346,000 to those 66 businesses and 2 nonprofits. Began last Friday as anticipated to be complete by tomorrow. The next up will be allocating and distributing up to $95,000 for rental assistance, childcare, and utility assistance under the human services portion of the CARES Act distribution, which Council approved previously. So that program, again, we're almost through the business grant distribution process, and we'll be moving on shortly to the human services grant distribution process. So I'm pleased to report on that. That is going well. And then secondly, tomorrow in the former Windmill Village site between 9:30 and 3:30, there will be free COVID-19 testing for anyone that wants to get a test. First come, first serve, of course. They'll be prepared to take up to 500 tests, again, on a first come, first serve basis over that 6-hour period from, again, 9:30 in the morning till 3:30 in the afternoon. There will be a walk-up and a drive-through testing. And all of the particulars on that can be seen in the city newsletter, which went out last week or the week before. The latest city newsletter has the map showing how you enter and exit the site. Appointments aren't necessary. All the necessary safety measures will be put into place. And finally, those Pierce County trailers that are coming to be set up for the testing has been funded out of the county's CARES Act funding. So again, putting the money to good use. Again, testing tomorrow, no appointment necessary. Anyone can get a test as long as they last. Up to 500 tests will be issued. That's my report, Mayor. Thank you,
Mr. Sugg. At this time, we are at the council comments and report section. We will use the speaking chart. Councilmember Figueroa, do you have any comments at this time?
Councilmember Figueroa does not have any comments at this time.
Councilmember Keel, do you have any comments at this time?
Great, thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Keel. I just have one thing to say, follow up on the CARES Act funding. I was in my bi-weekly AWC executive meeting today with the CEO of AWC, and I am hearing that it's a strong possibility that the state will be allocating roughly an additional $15 per capita CARES dollars out to the city, where they're still trying to finish up the little loose ends. It's not a completely done deal yet, but it's certainly very close to happening, and they're thinking that that's going to happen very, very soon. I asked if that's additional money coming from the feds, and it's not. It's the same amount of money that the state had the first time around, but they didn't allocate a high percentage, 30%. That percentage now has gone up to 45%, which works out to be about additional $15 per capita. So hopefully that will go through and come through very soon.
Interesting.
Okay. Councilmember Pro Tem Lee, do you have any comments or report out at this time? You are muted, sir.
Okay. I have one short comment. Jennifer Hale, our public safety director, and our chief of police, Primo, are working on one of their programs for continuing education of our citizens with respect to public safety. It's a save your date kind of thing, where October 8th will be a hiring process and basic law enforcement. October 15th, use of force training. October 22nd, crisis intervention and de-escalation tactics. October 29th, mental health co-responders, and November 5th, officer wellness. Those of you who have attended the previous types of community education that Jennifer Hale and the chief have provided, you find that they're very informative. Unfortunately, this will be done remotely, and so you'll need to make a reservation to attend this remote training. More will be publicized on this as the dates get closer, but the first session starts on October 8th. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lee. Councilmember Fleming, do you have any comments or report at this time?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Fleming. I just wanted to comment both on the CARES program as well as on the COVID testing that's scheduled for tomorrow. With regards to the CARES program, I appreciated the city manager's report, but I think it's important really to underscore how really hard the city has worked to get the information out to the public. The fact that we had 68 recipients in round 1 of funding. I don't know how many applicants we have for the round 2 that starts tomorrow, but hopefully we'll have as equal a success with that portion of the program, and we'll look forward to hearing more at the next council meeting as to how that went. With regards to COVID testing, we, prior to going live this evening, we had a good conversation, informal, about the necessities of COVID testing. I just want to underscore how important that is, and the fact that we can have it done free in our city. I would encourage any and everyone who hasn't been tested or may have been tested and may think they could have been exposed again to be retested. You don't necessarily have to have symptoms to be carrying the virus. And I would just encourage as many people to turn out as possible. We've got, as the city manager pointed out, 500 tests available, and I hope that we'll take advantage of all 500. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Fleming, for that reminder and encouragement. Mayor Pro Tem Worthington, do you have any comments at this time?
Mayor Pro Tem Worthington, yes, I do. And I just also wanted to comment on the COVID funding. I think this is going to be a good tool for us. I really believe that the city's done a strong effort in getting the information out as well, and that we've been able to distribute it quickly to our business community. All of that time wasn't really of the essence here to be able to keep businesses open. I hope it does as much good as it can, and I appreciate the staff's hard work and everyone else's hard work on that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank all my council members for covering all the bases this evening. Appreciate it. And I am also very grateful for the time and effort that our staff put in getting the money out, the CARES money out to our community, business community, as soon as they did. And I am looking forward to potentially hearing about more potential funding coming, and hopefully it does not come with a lot of regulation in place, that we will be able to turn around and further help our business and residential communities with that funding. So I'm looking forward to hearing more from that. I hope you will keep us up to date on that, Councilmember Keel. With that, we will move on to our study session. I am going to ask our attorney, Matt Kaiser, to come forward. He's going to provide us with some information on the insurance code regulation changes that are needed. This is the study session. So Matt, go for it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Matt Kaiser, city attorney. As some of you may or may not know, the City of University Place, we're insured by Washington City's Insurance Authority. Every so often, they do a comprehensive review of standard contract clauses and the like. As part of the review this year, there was the opportunity to examine several pieces of our municipal code in terms of looking at for best practices and that sort of thing. Together with our risk manager, Leslie Blaisdell, had identified 3 provisions of the municipal code that modernization and updating along the lines of dollar figures, practices, and that sort of thing were sought. The first is dealing with, and some of these are going to be a little more esoteric than others. The first provision deals with oversized loads. In order to haul an oversized load through the City of University Place, permits are required. I understand from our city engineer that there's usually no more than about 10 applications annually for those. The recommendation is to raise the limits on permits associated with that, in addition to incorporating hold harmless language. The second is for public works contracts, including language that we have a quick turnaround on notice of policy cancellation, together with also raising insurance limits consistent with our contracts. And then the third one is moving of structures. I understand that that is a seldomly sought permit. However, there is some outdated language associated with that. Having said that, there is the recommendation to remove some of that outdated language. This is, I hate using the word housekeeping, so I will use the word decluttering and modernization. My phraseology. But those are the changes which have been identified and recommended that we would commit to the council for discussion tonight. So with that, I'm happy to yield the floor and for any questions that council may have.
Okay. We will go with the seating chart. Councilmember Figueroa, do you have any questions at this time?
I guess this is Councilmember Figueroa. Matt, when's the last time we made any changes, and how does that? I mean, is number one. Number two is this changes seem very minor, so I consider them minor. Is there any significant thing here that?
Let me answer those questions in reverse order. I would generally consider these also fairly minor. By code, however, we've identified these dollar figures. This is just bringing those dollar figures up to date. As far as when the code was last updated, I can't give you an immediate answer off the tip of my tongue. However, if council commits this for consideration, I can make sure that that's included in the agenda bill for that consideration.
When you just mentioned cost, was there a cost involved in this?
There should be no cost to the city associated with that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Keel, do you have any comments or questions at this time?
Councilmember Keel, I have no questions for this housekeeping, whatever we're calling item.
Councilmember Pro Tem Lee, do you have any questions or comments?
This is Councilmember Pro Tem Lee. I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Fleming, any comments or questions?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Fleming, may I, it does, as others have said, sounds like a housekeeping matter, but what's the potential downside of this?
The downside is that if unenacted, the city doesn't have the full impact of insurance coverage available should some harm ultimately befall in the issuance of permits and the like. So for example, if a permit holder is underinsured and they cause damage to city infrastructure or expose the city in some way in an amount in excess of that, you're having to chase something above and beyond what their insurance policy might provide.
Okay. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Worthington, do you have any comments or questions?
Madam Mayor, I do. Mayor Pro Tem Worthington, just to say that this seems like a necessary change and we should move forward with it and see if we can't formalize it. Thank you.
Okay, well, my questions were answered already, so I appreciate that. Any other follow-up questions or comments that anybody might have? It's a pretty straightforward language update in the regulation, so I don't see it being an issue. Are we able to forward this on the consent agenda at our next meeting for approval?
I would say yes.
Yeah. Well, I was looking at our attorney to.
Yes, the answer is yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, with that, I think that we will have this scheduled on our consent agenda for our next meeting. And hopefully our next meeting will have a little bit more depth and substance to it, but there are no other additional items on our agenda this evening. So we have a nice opportunity to go outside and enjoy the sunshine and the warm weather while it lasts. So with that, seeing no additional questions or comments, I will adjourn our meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Adios, everybody.
Mayor.
Bye.